Looking too hot now. Right, Bandland need a new hero. This is dark, okay? So the evening of April 26th, someone will post a pretty alarming screenshot from David's Snapchat. This is at 8:27 p.m. He says, hit a pose. And it's him wearing bloody gloves and doing the shush hand sign. And then he's got those bloody shirts in the background. Now this is insane, that this was what was going on in his career while allegedly the body was still either in his garage or already in the trunk, but that's insane. And so April 27th, 2026, the fan takes photos and videos with David and his family. That's his dad, I think that's his little sister, his brother. But people are posting that they pulled up with him, and that clip is also still available. Got that ego range. Roll, is that Robert? Still getting fan love, okay? He's still getting that.
Dracula wishes to reclaim my city. You call yourselves New York's guardians. Now is the time to prove it.
He's saying I'm 100% snatched in this, David. So these are people with David before, and he's still smiling it up. Just, what would this be, 4 days after the murder took place?
Take a moment and enjoy the peace.
Which means I do too.
Don't last for long.
Rise and fall.
Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster? Those monsters look hungry. Time to see if you're the hero you say, or just another snack.
A gift from Khonshu.
But neither will you, it seems.
Rise and fall.
A hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. Another wave incoming. Hold the line. Such remarkable power. I hope you put it to good use for once. Vacation's over. Back to work. Hope you've still got some. The moon haunts you! Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts you! These vigilantes never surrender. The moon haunts you! Congratulations on surviving another round. Let's hope your luck continues to hold. Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster? More vampires have arrived. Ready yourself for battle. And don't you dare let my city down. The moon haunts you!
Thank you very much.
Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
A gift from conscience.
The moon haunts you! These vigilantes never surrender. over yet. A hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. I knew you wouldn't give up easily.
Still can.
But now it's time to see if you're truly worthy. Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. Your mind is mine!
Never!
Impressive! But I will find a way to break you.
While you still can.
Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. Secret strike! Another impressive! But I will find a way to break you. The moon haunts you! Fire! Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. I am the law! Unlimited power!
Run! While you still. Thank you, my friends.
Enjoy your holiday. The New Yorkers will always remember who truly gave them everything. Their mayor.
Ready to welcome their winged overlords to their enticing nectaries and pollen-packed anthers. Bees, welcome to Pangaea. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC now. Enjoy.
Soy Lucas, tengo 4 años. Y soy paciente de San...
Adding the beehive was a mission. The entire bee nest was carried in a bag by Mac here, my friend and professional stingless bee farmer. I could hardly contain my excitement as he walked with the bees in hand through the ant room to the top floor. The insertion of the bee nest into Pangea needed to be planned carefully, as one wrong move could lead to a disastrous situation with a bunch of angry bees loose in my home. Now the species of these bees is Tetragonula burroi, a native species of stingless bee. Yes, they're bees that lack a stinger, but don't get it twisted. They still attack when provoked. They bite and go for vulnerable areas. Eyes, nose, ears, armpits, and hair. But hey, I keep pet fire ants. Surely I could handle stingless bees, right? Well, it turns out these bees were not at all like fire ants. They're not even quite like honeybees. And despite all my intricate planning and preparations, I would soon discover that these bees were like no other creature I've kept before. And I was up for the craziest adventure in the history of Pangea's ecosystem. Ahead. After agreeing on a plan and placing the entire bag into the glass box, which would become their new beehive, we were ready. The next step was to shut off all the lights and remove the bag to release the bees and the nest. Here goes nothing. In the dark, Mac worked as quickly as he could to remove the bee nest from the bag and remove the bag from the box. I could hear the bees buzzing around, and some came buzzing around my head. Despite standing a good 6 feet away, my protective headgear was effective, but some managed to crawl up my pants and were biting me in the places the sun don't shine. It felt like little sharp pinches. Once the bag was removed, Mac shut the door to the chamber, trapping the bees inside. But that was just the first step. I was shocked to see how many bees were on the floor, something Mac cautioned would happen. So we took a soft broom and swept them all up to place them into the chamber. Bees are activated by light and are the most sleepy and inactive in the dark, hence us introducing the bees at night. When they were all in, we could finally relax. This was all extremely exciting because pollinators play a major role in ecosystems, and I always felt that they were a critical missing link in Pangea's ecosystem. So finally introducing these bees to our system was like a dream. I was also excited because this setup is quite unorthodox for housing them, with a connection to the outside to access outdoor flowers, as well as an indoor component with flowering plants.
Dracula wishes to reclaim my city. You call yourselves New York's guardians. Now is the time to prove it.
They want blood, but so do I.
If they would decide to move out of it, or worst case scenario, end up dying.
Stay alert. This fight isn't over yet.
Dust.
And visit our flowers in each vivarium.
A hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. More vampires have arrived. Ready yourself for battle. And don't you dare let my city down.
Thank you very much.
Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts you. These vigilantes never surrender. won't quit, but neither will you, it seems. Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster? Vacation's over. Back to work. Hope you've still got some heroism left in you. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts you. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts these vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts you. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble. Another less than noble sacrifice. Hurt me, vile creature! What is the point? These vigilantes. Another less than noble. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble. sacrifice.
On the comments, now choose one favorite. But he's also failed to actually deceive the next.
Just as I expected. I can't rely on self-righteous vigilantes. I'll have to handle this myself.
I think these bees were now treating this entire bee box like a cavity within a tree. But now for the ultimate test. Were the bees visiting our flowers in the Bavaria? I checked for Dantium. I don't see any bees yet. The Verdantian winds had come on, so I was hoping the smell of all our flowers was making it to the nest and beckoning them to the field. Guess not. There were no bees in the log bridge either. Checking out Arcadia, I also saw no bees visiting the newly planted orchids. Perhaps the bees just needed more time to discover our flowers. But what I did discover, just below the orchids, was a rather peculiar sight. The blue ants, members of the Sapphire Royals, were feasting on a small rotting mango. I loved watching our beloved blue ants feeding. Since joining our forest, I've come to learn that these blue ants love fruit, and I've never really known them to eat anything else. It is quite therapeutic to watch the ants going to town on the mango. And the ants themselves are just stunning to look at, with their spiked armor of the shiniest cobalt blue.
There are websites that are out there that have all sorts of information on you. Even if you haven't been scammed, even if you haven't given permission, they've got your data. And these sites are called data broker sites. And what they will do is they will buy your information and they'll sell your information to anybody that wants to get it. Whether it's a hacker, a scammer, or even a stalker, they'll sell it to whomever. But if you want to get your data off of these websites, you should use them. They are constantly scanning these data broker sites, and they'll go on your behalf and send these opt-out requests for you automatically. And Aurora also does some...
But what I found peculiar was the Dark Horde's reaction to it. How strange. So I had ordered a huge basket of these native baby mangoes, and it was all more than I could finish before they spoiled. So instead of throwing away the rotten ones, I placed them in the field for the ants. And as you can see, the blue ants love them, but the black crazy ants, who usually devour any sweets available to them...
Dracula wishes to reclaim my city.
No.
You call yourselves New York's guardians. Now is the time to prove it.
Even when
They
the blue
want
ants had their
blood,
fill,
but so do I.
There were native acrobat ants, the chromatoblasters, came along to have their turn at the mango. There were several
Stay
ants with
alert.
baby
This
mangoes
fight isn't over yet.
Answer dust.
and were a total hit with our native ants. But strangely,
A
none.
hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. More vampires have arrived. Ready yourself for battle. And don't you dare let my city down.
Give her punch you.
But neither will you, it
Have I
seems.
ever opened them to harvest the honey?
Such remarkable power. I hope you put it to good use for once. Vacation's over. Back to work. Hope you've still got some heroism left in you. Congratulations on surviving another round. Let's hope your luck continues to hold. Such remarkable power. I hope you put it to good use for once. Another wave incoming. Hold the line. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. Rise and fall. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another moment and enjoy the peace. It won't last for long. Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster? Those monsters look hungry. Time to see if you're the hero you say, or just another snack. Congratulations on surviving another round. Let's hope your luck continues to hold. A hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. More vampires have arrived. Ready yourself for battle.
Before I devour you.
Noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
I shall feast on your bones!
Less than noble sacrifice.
Left my jaw.
Run while you still can.
Less than noble sacrifice.
I shall feast on your bones!
Less than noble
While you still can.
Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Thank you very much. These vigilantes never surrender.
I shall feast on your bones!
Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
Never!
Another less than noble.
Now, before I devour you!
Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender.
And ground orchids was destroyed.
Another less than noble sacrifice.
This copia. I was instead.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
One big mystery.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than
Why me? Every time I come in, the fuck?
Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
I shall feast on your bones!
These vigilantes never surrender.
Never!
Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble
Fuck, why are they shaking my shit off?
These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Before I devour you!
Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
What a bummer. Why did the keys not
These vigilantes never surrender. The moon haunts you. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Very much. On your toes. Here they come.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Rise and fall. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Just shaking my shit off.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. The moon haunts you. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
Dragging this, y'all.
Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender.
I shall feast on your bones!
Noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Before I devour you!
Never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes. Another less than noble sacrifice. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes. Another less than noble sacrifice.
Yo, Moonlight, can you please throw your arms on her?
Yeah, this stage she's just destroying my arms. She's at her third level. I am putting them on. She's just killing them.
I'm seeing like 2 on her.
I was putting them on her. She was shaking them off.
I'll have to handle this myself.
Different levels all over the farm lot and in my garden. I wanted to find out which flowers exactly my stingless bees were visiting and why they were choosing these flowers over our flowers inside Pangea. So in case you don't know, flowers are essentially reproductive structures of flowering plants designed to produce seeds and ensure the survival of the plant species. They come in many shapes, sizes, and colors with one important purpose: to attract pollinators, essentially creatures that help them transfer their pollen grains, which contain their DNA, to other flowers of the same species, which are taken in, leading to fertilization and the production of new seeds. So basically, flowers are for plant mating, and while there are some flowering plants that can mate without pollinators, the vast majority, 75 to 95% of flowering plants, which is over 180,000 species, do need pollinators to carry those pollen grains and reproduce. Now here's a flower of interest, with some rather controversial creatures. On my white powder puff flowers, a team of insects were busy working on gathering nectar. Weaver ants were busy drinking up the nectar provided by the nectaries deep inside the flower. The powder puff is actually a mass of flowers, as you can see with this wilted powder puff, with the long filaments holding the nectar, which contain the pollen above the ants. Now while we're here, I have something to say about ants as pollinators. Though ants can be pollinators, it turns out they're not the plant's preferred pollinator compared to bees, flies, and butterflies.
The fuck is this?
First, Ants are clean freaks and are constantly grooming themselves. So they end up removing most pollen stuck to their bodies before they ever get to travel to another plant. Second, most ants don't actually even move to other plants to ever get to transfer pollen. They tend to visit a bunch of flowers on the same plant, but rarely leave to visit others. These weavers are like nectar robbers, where they take the goods, the nectar, but don't give back to the plant by delivering its pollen. But what struck me as important about these flowers was the
Need
architecture.
to grind gear, I
This
guess.
flower is built to attract large pollinators, like butterflies, to land on it, pack its nectar deep in the powder puff, and force the butterfly to brush up against the anthers so pollen grains stick to their bodies, which then allows the
Dracula
pollen to be
wishes to reclaim my
powerful
city.
flowers.
You call yourselves New York's guardians. Now is the time to prove it.
They want blood, but so do I.
That many flowers actually have a target audience and aren't just generalists.
Take a moment and enjoy the peace.
Vamps are
It won't last for long.
Growing on my trees were so tiny that they surely couldn't accommodate.
Such remarkable power. I hope you put it to good use for once. Vacation's over. Back to work. Hope you've still got some heroism left in you. But neither will you, it seems.
I'm a G.I. Singalada.
A hero at their peak. I hate to admit it, but I'm impressed. Another wave incoming. Hold the line. The moon haunts you. Remarkable power. I hope you put it to good use for once. More vampires have arrived. Ready yourself for battle. And don't you dare let my city down. The moon haunts you. Starting another round. Let's hope your luck continues to hold.
Oh boy. Alright. So for years,
Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster? Those monsters look hungry. Time to see if you're the hero you say, or just another snack.
Thank you very much.
These enemies won't quit, but neither will you, it seems. Fascinating. Now, who's the real monster?
you'll also notice these large bubbles around structures.
I knew you wouldn't give up easily, but now it's time to see if you're truly worthy. The moon haunts you! Secret strike! Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. Impressive! But I will find a way to break you. Fire! Secret strike! If I can break your bones, I'll bend your will instead. If I can break your bones, I'll bend your will instead.
Even though you always tease me for and say I never want dessert before eating half of yours.
Another less than noble sacrifice. I am the law!
You know I love having you all under one roof.
Unlimited power!
Around one table.
Come on, I'll give them caution. The moon haunts you!
Another less than noble sacrifice.
Floating around on the internet for anyone to buy and sell. There's nothing to do about it. But there is something
I will crush you!
because they do all the hard work for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
These vigilantes never surrender. But I won't let you win!
Their land founders rise and fall.
Another less than noble sacrifice.
Khonshu, I'll give them Khonshu.
But I won't let you win!
The moon haunts you.
Another less than noble sacrifice. You can't escape justice! vigilantes never
Oh,
surrender.
y'all get stuck, and then I want to basically get out of here. This shit's over. We're just gonna keep dying.
Unlimited power!
Come on, Gunch. Rise and fall. The moon haunts you.
Another less than noble sacrifice.
Quit using that shit. Damn.
These vigilantes never surrender.
Ah, I've come back from far where I'll keep very much.
Unlimited power! Another less than noble sacrifice.
Quit
These
fucking,
vigilantes
man.
never surrender.
Well, it sure did look like a coconut tree. But it was funky on anyway. The golden flowers still
Another less than noble
I
sacrifice.
could smell its
These vigilantes never. Unlimited power!
Back up to
Another less than noble
to
sacrifice.
begin blowing the coconuts full of perfumes.
These vigilantes never surrender. Another less than noble sacrifice. These vigilantes. I won't let you win!
A bee had entered, and soon it was 2 bees. The smells of the coconut flowers seemed to be working. I even placed an extra
Another less than noble
add
sacrifice.
to the smell.
You can't escape justice!
I watched as the bees seemed to fly around, but then head back to the nest.
These vigilantes never surrender.
All
I won't let you win!
late afternoon,
Oh, wasting time.
starting to slow
I'm not
down.
coming back
The
in
bees
this
had
bitch.
still not visited the coconut. And then right before sunset, I
Back
noticed
again? Great.
Another less than noble
began to fly closer to
sacrifice.
the coconut tree. It eventually came to check out the coconut leaves.
You did your best, but your services are no longer needed. It's time for Mayor Fisk to rebuild this city.
Eventually broke loose. Flew closer. It landed to rest, where it was suddenly attacked by a black crazy ant. No! The bee ended up flying and shaking off the black crazy ant. These inconveniences were enough to send the bee back home. Oh man! A few more bees came to inspect the coconut tree afterward, but all also ended up flying back home without visiting the flowers.
Factura del celular. Después de revisar esa factura, mi decisión es llevarlo a Verizon. Mejor oferta, mejor red.
Trae tu factura de T-Mobile o AT&T a Verizon y te damos una mejor oferta para tu familia.
One shirt, from yacht to bar to dinner. Charles Tyrwhitt's 100% linen.
3 days later, the coconut tree was looking rough. Leaves had dried out, and the coconut flowers themselves had begun to droop and wilt. I hate to finally throw my hands up, guys, and admit this, but the bees weren't willing to visit our flowers in Pangaea. Not the ground flowers, not even their favorite coconut flowers. I was sad and completely mystified. Do you guys have any guesses as to why the bees weren't pollinating in Pangaea? Here are my guesses. First, the obvious. The coconut tree wasn't alive. It was technically 2 dead flowers that I was trying to sell to the bees as living nectar-providing flowers. I think ultimately the bees knew our coconut tree wasn't the real thing, and I greatly underestimated their intelligence. Second, I feel it may have to do with sunlight somehow, as it looked like the bees in Verdantia kept wanting to fly into my lights. Not sure how lighting affects how these stingless bees find flowers, but it could be a factor as to why our bees weren't visiting our flowers. Third, after thinking things over, I also realized that when it comes to flowers and pollinators, timing is everything. The cigar plants, as well as the Barbados cherry I planted into our tank, which the bees also ended up not visiting in the end, but was now sporting a bright red berry in its branches, could be evidence that flowers naturally have a golden period for visitation when they provide pollination to pollinators, or when they no longer need pollination anymore, they stop offering up that nectar. Going out into my driveway a few days later, I saw that the Barbados cherry was now producing berries, and lo and behold, the stingless bees, which were formerly seen in swarms here, were no longer pollinating the flowers. Perhaps the timing of our flowers was off. The coconut looked as though it had many male flowers still unbloomed. Whatever the case, I'll continue to plant new flowers to replace the dead ones for the duration of this year's flowering season and hope for the best. I was happy to see that several of the flowers were still alive and doing well in the tanks. As for the coconut tree, I'll leave it up for a few more days before removing it. Our quails seem to enjoy pecking at the fallen male flowers. Looking into Verdantia today, I spotted something that gave me great hope. A bee. It was visiting one of the flowering plants in Verdantia, a plant that had flowers on the way. Alright, I wonder if the bee could tell that its flowers were coming, and would be back once they reached that golden period when nectar is fully available. I then noticed that the bees also suddenly had an interest in exploring the glass bridge above their beehive. Well, this was all very promising. For me, this was the bees' way of telling me to be patient and give them more time to warm up to this parallel universe I've introduced them to in Pangaea. After all, it's only been 2 weeks since they moved in. Gotcha, bees. I hear ya loud and clear. Before keeping these bees, I thought bees were pretty straightforward, visiting nearly all flowers, all the time, whichever flowers they could get to, and that if I simply placed flowers into a tank that the bees had access to, they'd visit them. But in the end, I learned that the process of pollination was a lot more complex, and that this ancient symbiosis between plant and pollinator was one that needed more exploration. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. The name I've chosen for our bees, which was a popular suggestion from you guys in last week's episode, is the Beebarians. These new bees are barbarians. I am Ants Canada, creator of worlds. The biological root and wilt. I hate to finally throw my hands up, guys, and admit this, but the bees weren't willing to visit our flowers in Pangaea. And were now seen crawling at my window, trying to follow the light to return back to the colony. I carefully picked these escapees up and threw them into Verdantia. When I was done, I looked into the tank, and to my surprise, instead of seeing a bunch of bees flying around, I only spotted one. I followed it carefully with my eyes, doing my best not to lose it. And bam! Aha! It flew through the hole. And sure enough, checking the bridge, yep, just as I suspected, the bees were returning to the nest. And pretty quickly, too. They knew exactly how to get back home, and were perfectly capable of navigating their way to and from Verdantia. This to me meant that the bees were purposely choosing not to visit Verdantia, and it wasn't merely a case of having difficulties getting there, which was a possibility. Over the next few days, the bees continued to turn their antennae up to our flowers, with no visits. On top of this, some of the flowers were beginning to wilt, due to either failing to adapt to the new vivarium, a lack of pollination, or perhaps some other reason. It was time to seek some answers, this time, out in Mother Nature. Wasn't at all possible. But then I considered, what if we could simply recreate a coconut tree? This was... Looking at the leaves, I felt it helped make... They're all coming in now! I am Ants Canada, creator of worlds, the biological engineer of a multi-year operation in my giant ant room lab, located in my home, where I'm building an expansive network of ecosystem vivariums. Exhibit A, Pantora, my 1,000-gallon cloud rainforest floor vivarium, which is connected by way